Good morning. Great to see all of you here on this year's IFRS Foundation Conference. The trustees are responsible for the governance, oversight and strategy, and also funding for the foundation. And this work involves long-term planning, close coordination with the leadership of the foundation and its two standard-setting boards, the IASB and ISSB. The foundation combines private sector innovation and market engagement, as we can also see from this participation, with oversight by a monitoring board of public authorities responsible for capital markets. This public-private model has served our organization well. I'm impressed by the program which the team has set up for today, with presentations from the leadership of both boards, our staff, and also by many external experts. We have a lot to get through today, so for my open remarks, I'll limit my comments to addressing three key questions. How did this all start? How are we doing today? And where are we headed? First, how did this all start? Why this question is always relevant. For some or even many of you, the standards have existed since the beginning of your professional careers. However, they have not always existed. It's important to remember how far we have come, to avoid taking these programs for granted, and to make sure that we don't slip back. The IFRS accounting is only a 25-year-old success story, far exceeding the ambitions of those who created the organization back in 2000. I remember that well because I was a European Commissioner at the time in Brussels. The first chair of trustees was my predecessor and friend, famous Paul Volcker, legendary former chair of the US Federal Reserve, who was credited with rescuing the US economy in the 1970s. Paul came often to Brussels to present the work of the foundation. At the time, the European Commission was considering its financial market action plan as part of famous Lisbon strategy. It urgently needed a solution for common EU-wide accounting standards. But Europe's needs coincided with accounting failures in the US following the collapse of Enron and WorldCom. Additionally, the Asian financial crisis had knocked confidence in accounting standards used in many parts of the world. At the international level, market regulators at IOSCO were calling for a global solution. Paul Volcker delivered a seminal speech at the European Commission at the time titled "The Crisis in Accounting." The speech is still available on the internet, and it's well worth to read to remind us all of how far we have come. These developments created the necessary support for global accounting standards, and the rest is history. Demand-driven, market-led, and investor-focused. Europe and others led the way, and we now have more than 140 countries using IFRS accounting standards. Many of you in this room played important roles in the adoption and implementation. Our success is your success. I want to thank you for this contribution. History tends to repeat itself. Some 2 decades later, the challenge was sustainability disclosures. Investors wanted to understand companies' sustainability-related risks and opportunities. Voluntary standards provided a partial solution, but once again, global markets, regulators, and others wanted more. They want to get rid of alphabet soup. Given the success of the IFRS accounting standards, many asked the foundation to play a role. It's already 5 years ago, in 2020, when the trustees consulted on the demand for global sustainability standards, whether the foundation should play a role, and if so, what that role should be. The response was clear. There was a strong support for global standards and support also for a new standard-setting board within the foundation to deliver them. Once again, demand-driven, market-led and investor-focused. Shortly after, we launched the International Sustainability Standard Board at COP26 climate conference in Glasgow. We appointed its board and leadership. We also announced the consolidation of the leading investor-focused sustainability standards and organizations into the foundation, that especially to reduce the alphabet soup. The ISSB published its inaugural standards in 2023, and now jurisdictions representing around 60% of global GDP are using or considering using those standards. The progress in such a short period of time has been remarkable. What lessons do we draw from this experience? We are not politicians, we are not elected, and we are not policy makers, but we are an apolitical, market-neutral standard setters. Our mission is better information for better decisions. What decisions are taken, they belong to those who have a mandate for that. We respond to market demand, and in doing so we satisfy that demand through high levels of transparency, market engagement and high quality work. And this has been a great success. So second question, how are we doing? Whilst we produce high quality standards and have many jurisdictions using them, to what extent are they delivering tangible benefits for capital markets and society more broadly? And to help to answer to this important question, the trustees asked a group of eminent academics in economics in September last year to conduct a review of relevant literature and draw conclusions. The group of academic fellows is chaired by Professor Lucrezia Reichling, former trustee and respected academic from London School of Business School. Other members are academics from leading business schools across Asia, Europe and Americas. The group has completed its first report to the trustees, and this morning we have put this report on the website, so you have exciting paper to read on the way back. You can start it already during this conference. I really recommend to read it through. The review looked at both the capital market effects of the IFRS standards, but also the consequences beyond capital markets. The authors drew on 2 decades of research on financial reporting and much more recent literature on sustainability reporting. The review identified that for capital markets, the better information provided by applying IFRS standards has helped to reduce investor uncertainty and has minimized the risk of asymmetric information provided to the market. Better information leads to increased market liquidity, which reduces investor transaction costs and lowers the cost of capital. Quite critical issues, all this. At the same time, the research makes clear the difficulty of breaking out the effects of the introduction of the IFRS standards from other regulatory innovations introduced at the same time. As such, IFRS standards are best thought of as a part of a set of capital market standards and practices for sound, stable and well-functioning financial systems. This is how the Financial Stability Board describes our work. Review identifies 3 key takeaways for the trustees to consider. First, long-standing evidence of financial reporting and emerging evidence of sustainability reporting disclosures indicate that standards have significant capital market and broader effects. However, the exact magnitude of those effects is difficult to predict. This unpredictability is one of the reasons why we undertake post-implementation reviews of major standards a few years after the effective date. Second, standards themselves are necessary, but not sufficient to enhance the quality and consistency on the reporting. Equally important is the institutional infrastructure to ensure that standards are well embedded, implemented and enforced. This is why we work in close collaboration with international and jurisdictional authorities, regulators, auditors and other standard setters to ensure proper application of the standards. Moreover, this conclusion demonstrates why this work being undertaken by ISB and its partners to build market and jurisdictional capacity is really essential. Third consideration relates to the cost of applying IFRS standards. The authors highlight the need to ensure proportionality in disclosure requirements with a strong focus on only requiring the disclosure information that is material to investors. This balance is particularly important when set against the current trends in many jurisdictions to focus on competitiveness and to minimize the reporting burden. I'm really grateful to the academic fellows for this high-quality research they have undertaken. Reading through their report, it's clear that our work has indeed delivered tangible benefits to the capital markets and broader society. However, our standards are just one piece of the corporate reporting jigsaw and need to be combined with stronger enforcement. Moreover, proportionality and a strong focus on information that is material to investors should remain a top priority. Finally, where are we headed? Our organization has been through a period of rapid change in the last 5 years to accommodate an expanded remit and to support two boards at very different stages in their maturity. Moreover, we have consolidated the staff and intellectual property from several organizations into the foundation, which has resulted in a doubling in headcount, a broadening of the skills required, and move to a multi-location model. The ISSB, International Sustainability Standards Board in particular, has required upfront investment to match market and jurisdictional expectations, similar to what was needed in the early days of accounting standards consolidation. All this change has occurred while the Foundation continues to serve the needs of the IASB and its own vital public interest work. Following this period of abrupt investment and rapid growth, it is appropriate to take stock to ensure the Foundation is well organized for the next stage of its evolution. This involves building on our success, consolidating the gains and ensuring that we are fit for the future. At the beginning of this year, the trustees undertook an organization review. This review has resulted in a 2-year transformation program to build stronger, more focused and more resilient organization that is fit for the future and appropriately resourced to meet its public sector, the public interest and mission. This program has 2 phases. First, we have already reorganized many of our core functions to simplify reporting lines and decision-making across the Foundation. This reorganization has been essential, given the organization has grown both organically and through consolidation. We have streamlined our non-technical operations and relationship management functions, and these changes are already delivering benefits. Second, we have sought to reduce our operating costs. Work is now complete on reviews of both governance and staff costs. Shortly after our trustees meeting, we announced the plan to reduce the costs of operating of the 2 boards. Our target is to reduce the size of both boards from 12 to 10 members by the end of 2028, while maintaining the focus of quality and geographic diversity. Thirdly, we are taking steps to increase revenues, including building a revenue function under senior leadership and refreshing existing funding commitments. This work is important. Funding contributions to support the work of the IASB are gradually drifting down, and the ISSB seed funding arrangements will need to be renewed and replaced. Finally, we are starting to work to refresh the Foundation's mid to long-term strategy. To do so, we are looking at perspectives on the future of corporate reporting, the Foundation's role within it, and how best to organize ourselves to achieve our mission. While building this strategy, we will consider a more durable and sustainable funding model. Although transformational change such as this is never easy, I believe it's essential to ensure that we are fit for the future and well placed for the next stage in our evolution. Finally, I want to thank you for your attention. I look forward to meeting many of you during the coffee breaks. Our success is your success. Thank you for everything you have done and continue to do to support our mission. Thank you and be welcome.